Hey guys, we're The Watch Standard. We're a watch trading company based in Arcadia, California. We trade a lot of brands like Rolex, AP, Patek, and so many more. My name is David.
And I'm Venezia.
And we're going to be covering a few topics. The first topic is going to be about the watch market. A lot of models have been going up and down in price, especially some of the more popular models. So we want to break that down for everybody. The second topic we're looking at is the Met Gala. A lot of celebrities had some pretty cool timepieces there. So we're going to look into that in just a little better detail.
So I'm actually pretty new to the watch industry. Is the market usually this like seesaw? Does it usually go up and down? Is like intense like this?
Honestly, there's a lot of speculation as to why the watch market is dropping so quickly. Some watches we've seen lose literally thousands of dollars of value every single week. It could be due to, China, especially with how their supply and demand just is actually starting to meet their own nation's supply and demand. Whereas now a lot of watch dealers are having, they have a bunch of assets. They have the watches. And it's kind of like who's going to break first, who's going to start undercutting the market to liquidate these watches. Which I think is probably already happening at a very small scale. I'm not sure what the long-term effects of that is going to be. However, I definitely see it coming, within the next 2 months, I'd say.
So considering the watch market is going up and down right now, wouldn't this necessarily be a good thing if you're like a watch enthusiast? Like if you like a watch and you're like, oh, I've been wanting that watch for so long, this is like the best time to buy. Is that the case, or what do you think?
When watches are going up and down in value, it's a lot like stocks and art. Some pieces do go up in price, whereas other pieces do go down. Honestly, timing the market or timing the value of a watch or price of a watch is incredibly difficult. My personal advice is if you have the available funds and you have the cash to do it and enjoy a timepiece, if you're the type to just buy a timepiece and really enjoy it for what it is, I would say do it whenever you're ready, regardless of what the market is like, especially because if it does go up, you can always flip it, right? But in the case that it does go down, you're still getting a piece that you're enjoying, regardless of the value.
Yeah. So so considering the market's doing what it's doing, is there a watch right now that you would suggest to like potentially invest in? Obviously, like if you're a watch enthusiast, buy when you want, because ultimately you're just buying to wear. But let's just say for those individuals that consider the investment part of a watch, is there a watch right now that you would potentially say is a good time to buy right now?
Yeah, if you're looking at watches as investments, the first thing you want to know is that like any other investment, there's a factor of risk that's inherently involved, right? When you're looking at some of the most popular models like the Daytona, the GMT, some models of the Submariner, almost all of them are selling over retail even right now. If you're trying to make money off of a watch, the best way to do that is actually acquiring the watch from a authorized dealer and getting retail price. However, doing so is a little bit more difficult than, you can't just walk into a store and you can't pick it up, A lot of times the watches there are either sold, they're not available, they're exhibition models, so the actual dealers are not selling them.
So like I said, I'm new in the watch industry. Is this a common thing? Has this happened before? And when it has, what happened? Was it like an extreme dip? Was it an extreme like up? How do you see this happening? Is this like a forever thing?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. At least while I've worked in the watch industry, I've typically seen just a pretty steady increase of prices. I haven't seen too many watches suddenly spike up so aggressively like I have in the past 6 months. I think it's very easy to say certain models nearly doubled or maybe even tripled in value, especially when you compare it to the retail price.
Yeah.
It's a very interesting thing. I've never seen this in the watch market. I've been in the watch industry for about 5-6 years, which isn't too long, but I do understand, like that pre-COVID watch life.
Yeah.
So it is definitely something new. So I think people are also expecting to have that drop to the current levels it was at before COVID. But honestly, it really depends on several different factors. One, the supply, it really depends on, you know, the number of timepieces that are available for purchase. If all the authorized dealers strictly don't have any watches at all, you know, obviously the supply is pretty limited, the production of the supply is slow, whereas the demand is going to stay stagnant.
Gotcha.
Now, I'm not sure if the prices are increasing because there is a greater demand or there's a stagnant demand and a constricted supply. However, I mean, this is just my personal opinion. My thought is that the demand is actually the same or increased just a little bit because people are now able to, you know, use it as an investment and flip it. At least from what I know, a lot of people are coming to purchase watches strictly to make a profit off of it. And, you know, the number of hands it goes through, everyone is just kind of taking a sliver off the top, right? So, you know, I'll sell it to someone and then that person will sell it to another person. And, you know, we're all going to be making, you know, $300 on the trade, but that adds up and the end user ultimately pays, you know, 2 to 3 times more than what they would normally pay at the boutiques.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sweet. Well, it's honestly pretty cool to see like an insight because, like I said, I mean, I'm not like I don't have that much knowledge yet about the watch industry, but also like the market behind things. So it's kind of like cool to be able to like learn that aspect of the watches.
Yeah. It's a really unique market. It's very niche, I'd say. And I do feel like watches are just growing in popularity right now.
Totally. Yeah.
Maybe it's you know, they say flex, you know, just flex on your haters or whatever.
Yeah, I think this is actually the perfect segue for the Met Gala. There's a few, I mean, you know, watches kind of can represent the luxury, the richness a person can have. And it's funny the theme for the Met Gala is the Gilded Age, which, if you're not familiar, this was a time and a period in the US where it was the late 1800s, early 19th, so like late 19th century.
Okay.
So during that time, a lot of immigrants came. That's when like people started to get rich off of gold. They started to get rich off of oil, the industrial era sort of. So with that came a huge spike in richness and then immigrants and, you know, there was like a huge spike in like richness and poor. So it's interesting to be able to like incorporate watches within this realm, especially the Met Gala, where like celebrities showcasing like art on their body and like you know, the bourgeoisie sort of thing.
Yeah.
But so my immediate thought was like, should they have worn watches made from that era? Technically to be like on par with like the theme. Because you see some Richard Mille. You see some of those on the red carpet, and obviously those were not made at that time. So let's do some like reviews on some watches that we saw on the red carpet.
Okay.
Let me just switch down to that page. So yeah, Ryan Reynolds, he wore an Omega Speedmaster. What are your thoughts on that?
My personal thought on the Omega Speedmaster is that it's the best watch ever, period.
Really?
It is such an amazing watch. It has so much history. I, at one point, had a Omega Speedmaster, but I actually got robbed. So I lost it.
Okay.
But honestly, hands down, my personal favorite. It's an amazing watch, keeps time. It's a chronograph. It's a manual one, which is a little annoying, but
so we know the bias.
It's
here.
great. Yeah, I'm definitely biased on anything Speedmaster related.
All right. Well,
unless it's a Swatch, then I don't know. You guys are somewhere else.
I mean, honestly, I don't have much. I don't really have a take on which watches a person wore, but
Mm-hmm.
as far as like the aesthetics and the whole outfit in general, I
Mm-hmm.
think it's pretty solid. You know, it wasn't like didn't seem like a statement piece for his outfit. It was very subdued, regardless of it being like
Mm-hmm.
a chronograph. All right, second one. Corey Gamble, the Patek Philippe, the Tiffany dial.
Tiffany dial Patek. Wow. Honestly, the only reason why that watch is really popping off is because it just reached such a high number at the auction. I think even Rolex Tiffany's with like that blue Oyster Perpetual dial, it sells for, it went from like, I think around 15,000 and it shot up into the 40s. So it's just nuts with anything Tiffany related
Yeah.
right now.
I really like that watch. I'm not a huge fan of the color, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
Not the biggest fan of that Tiffany blue, but I actually really appreciate the shape of that watch, and like I
Mm-hmm.
think it's honestly a way to like show what you have, sort of
Mm-hmm.
thing. It's very much a flashy watch. Like he knew exactly what he was doing coming on the red carpet with that watch.
Yeah. He definitely thought about which watch to pick from his collection. And you know, another thing to take into consideration is that we don't know if he had this watch before all of that hype. So it could have
True.
just been in his closet for who knows how long.
That's true.
And then it just so happened to, you know, be one of the watches that just he hit gold. You know?
But
He
he's
struck gold.
also like a sugar baby, so
That could be it too. So I mean, I'm not him.
I'm
and
kidding.
Yeah.
So okay, Nyjah Houston. Are you familiar with Nyjah?
No, who
All right,
is
so
he?
he's a pro skateboarder. I believe he's like one of the athletes under the Nike SB. Do you know who Nyjah is? All right, cool. Cameraman says yes. Yeah, so I know him to be like a skateboarder, but apparently he's like super big into watches, super big into like, you know, bust down watches and like jewelry and stuff. Yeah, so he wore a Roger, and excuse me, I'm not French, Roger Dubois, Excalibur, the Excalibur Cobalt Blue. Don't know much about that watch, do you?
Honestly, I don't know that much about Roger Dubois. Honestly, I don't even know if I'm saying it right either, so forgive me if I am. But I have seen some Roger Dubois come through our office. The Excalibur line, you know, when I've seen it, it definitely looks amazing. The one I've seen, and I'm not sure if it's like this for the entire catalog,
Yeah.
but they're all skeleton watches. And I think they were also involved in car making as well. Not that they're in the car making business, but I think the designs were influenced within the car industry.
Interesting. Awesome. There's a few like that, right? Like Jacob and Co. like has a Bugatti.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot. I know Breitling and Bentley is a huge one. Even though I'm not a fan of Breitling,
Yeah.
I'll never wear one. I know it exists.
Hot take.
I know you can crucify me now. But yeah, there's so many.
All right. So next, all right, let's do 3 more. Jack Harlow, Rolex Sky Dweller with the blue dial.
Yeah, I mean, Jack Harlow, he is definitely popping off, especially on TikTok. You always hear his First Class song. Maybe the Sky Dweller is a great match for that song because the Sky Dweller is intended as a timepiece for travel because it keeps track of time. You're able to track the hours through the day, regardless of where you're at in the world. And yeah, it's made for the modern day traveler. So is the GMT.
I see. Yeah, that's actually a really good crossover. His song and that watch. All right, Pete Davidson with the Rolex Datejust. I don't have the exact Datejust. I think it's the yellow gold Datejust. But we do have it on the new TikTok that we made. So if you want to check that video out to refer to it. So Pete Davidson, let's rewatch that video. At
least from this photo, it looks like it's a 41 millimeter Datejust on a oyster bracelet. The dial appears to be blue, but I'm not sure if that's just the light reflecting off of his watch a little odd.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, I mean, honestly, the Datejust is
it's this guy right here.
Oh, is this it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Is that like the slate dial, I think it's called, or remind me?
I'm totally wrong. Wow. So this is a 41 millimeter slate dial Datejust. It is a two-tone watch.
Diamond markers, right?
Yep, diamond markers, and it looks like rose gold two-tone. So there's a rose gold fluted bezel.
Honestly, I really, really like the two-tone. I know like some people are not. They're either you got the full gold or like full like platinum, or you don't. I like mixing metals, so I'm a huge fan of that watch. I also really like the touch of the diamond markers. It's a nice little like flash, and this slate dial is honestly pretty solid.
Yeah, it's definitely a pretty watch, but honestly, I think Pete Davidson, what's his name?
Davidson.
Yeah, Pete Davidskin.
Davidskin. Right.
My honest opinion is that Pete Davidson can actually get a much better watch. I think he's underplaying the whole thing. Maybe it was because of the theme that it is an old school watch. It is one of the older lines that Rolex has produced. Maybe that's why. But I'm not sure if he put too much thought into what he was going to wear to the Met Gala.
All right, there you go. Another hot take. Michelle Yeoh with the Richard Mille RM07.
Yeah.
She's I think she's an ambassador, if I'm not mistaken.
I think she might be.
She is. Yeah. It's such like a quote unquote manly watch, but I'm a fan of that watch. I think it's a pretty solid watch. That's essentially like the roundup of the Met Gala watches. I kind of, considering that timeline, it was like when watches were kind of, especially wrist watches were invented, I think it would have been really cool if they included, if some of the celebrities had like, maybe like a Vacheron or like
some of those older brands.
Yeah, some of those older brands. I think that would have been a little bit more legit. But
yeah,
nonetheless, some of the watches that we saw is pretty solid.
Yeah, honestly, all the watches that you've mentioned are great timepieces. Don't get me wrong. And I think another thing to keep into consideration is that the lifetime of watches during that era were not as long-lived. We look at some of the vintages today. A watch from the 80s, 60s, even the 50s are considered very old.
Yeah.
They do last a very long time. It's meant to last, a full generation.
I mean, Kim Kardashian wore a Marilyn dress, so I think we could have put out a vintage watch on the red carpet.
Yeah. No, there's some amazing vintage watches, especially in the world of horology. I know Patek has a pocket watch, I think from the 1700s.
Oh, dude, a pocket watch would have been so good.
I think that would have been a very interesting take.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, there was a few people that wore monocles and like things that were, accessories at that time. But yeah.
I think the world of watches just changed so drastically ever since, I would say the 1950s and onward. There's just been so much advancement regarding watches. You look at events like Mercedes glides swimming the British Canal, which literally proved that watches can now be water resistant, which wasn't a thing before. You look at things like the luminescence of a watch, how it glows in the dark, right? That used to literally be like radiation poisoning, and now like it's safe to wear on your wrist and it's perfectly fine. So the technology behind those watches just came so far.
Yeah. Well, that concludes that Met Gala segment. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. If you guys have any sort of like segments that you guys want us to talk about, or like certain topics you guys want us to talk about, please let us know in the comments. We're super excited to be able to like push out content on our YouTube channel. Finally, I know. Yeah, so feel free to like the video if you liked it and share your thoughts with us. We're excited to show you more behind the scenes stuff and like, put some stuff out for you. So yeah. We'll see you next time.
See
Bye.
ya.